Hello, hello, hello. Mr. Gray back in the house, and I'm so glad you guys are back listening to me once more. Um, Before we jump into how to spot fakes, I just want to say congratulations to anybody who got their Jordan 11 bread today. It should have been an easy cop. If you did not get it, you simply were just not trying. Either way, there were tons of pairs, and as expected, they did sell out. But anyway, that's not what we're here for today. We are here for those people who like to brave the dangers of the forest, who don't like to go the natural, the beaten path, but they like to go off the beaten path. The people who sometimes don't buy something directly from a retailer, or don't buy something directly from a retailer that purchased it from the retailer, or for people who want to buy directly from a person selling them a sneaker, or somebody who basically doesn't want to use a vetting service such as GOAT, Stadium Goods, or StockX. These are the people I'm talking to today. So even if you and I hate to say it, no offense, but if you use eBay, you're off the beaten path because there's nobody to really verify your sneaker for you. You know you don't have to get your sneaker verified when you use Foot Locker, when you buy from Foot Locker, Foot Action, Finish Line, etc. You know you don't have to verify your sneaker when you buy it directly from Nike or Adidas. But once again, these explanations today are for the off beaten path, those people who buy directly from people that we may or may not know. So anyway, let's jump into this on how to spot fakes. One, you want to find a reliable comparison pair. So if you have a friend that has the same sneaker that has purchased them either directly from the retailer, which would be Nike or Adidas, etc., or if that friend has purchased them from a retailer that purchased it directly from the retailer that made it, such as, like I said before, Foot Locker, Foot Action, Finish Line, etc., then you would want to use that friend's shoe because he got the real deal pair. If you don't have the luxury of having a friend that has the pair, then you can use a trusted sneaker website such as the retailer's website. You can use Nike's website to compare the pictures between the ones you're trying to get, or Adidas website. Um, I'd say other sites I would recommend are Sneaker Bar Detroit, Sneaker News, Go, and StockX. They have really good pictures that are very clear, so you can see a lot of the details in the photo, and that's what you at the end of the day, you want to make sure you can see every detail of what you're comparing. If you don't have the physical sneaker in your hand, then you want the highest quality photo you can get. And it's for me, Sneaker Bar Detroit, Sneaker News, Go, and StockX have the highest quality photos typically of the sneakers that if I'm comparing it to what I may think or am potentially trying to buy that could potentially be a fake. Um, so number two, things to look at. So really, there's a lot of things to look at. So we're going to say number two is look at stitching. So right today, what I'm going to compare, and I'm not going to say where the fake where the fake was at. It was online on a site that a lot of people buy sneakers on, but it's not a trusted website. And I'm not talking about the big boys that actually vet them. I'm talking about a website that doesn't vet sneakers. And I don't want to really, throw anybody out there like that. But look at the stitching. So if you look at this What the Dunk, this SB Dunk Want the Dunk. If we look at the side, let's just say the side with Ray Gun on it. Um, let's start with this. Let's start with the swoosh. No, actually, let's start with the stitching, as I said earlier. If you look at the Nike swoosh, the silver swoosh on the Ray Gun side, you can see that the top pair has stitching going through the Nike symbol right there where the stars and the black part of the shoe meet. But on the bottom shoe, which is actually the fake, because I actually didn't tell you guys which one was the fake. There is no stitching going through. There's no stitching at all going through the Nike symbol. So we already know right now that there's something different about these two pairs. The question is, of course, was which one was real? Well, the top one's real. So that therein lies already the first problem is the stitching going through the real one is going through the Nike symbol, but not going through the Nike symbol on the fake. So now the third thing you want to check, and this here is probably like a big grouping. I hate to say it. So let's just say compare fonts. So we'll make number 3 compare fonts. So if you look at both sides of the what the dunk, the side with the ray gun and the side with the pigeon. Um, if you look at the numbers, so the 13 on the ray gun side, it is slightly the font is slightly similar, but the one thing that sticks out is one, the angle of the 13 on both shoes is completely off. They're kind of tilted to the side, but also the numbers are bigger on the fake shoe than the actual original shoe. Telltale sign there. Logos. This shoe doesn't. If you want to use logos, we'll talk about the pigeon on we'll talk about the pigeon on the dunk. On If you can see, the pigeon on the real dunk is very, very detailed. The one at the top, it's very detailed. The one at the bottom, the pigeon looks like he's been punched to death. He looks like he's been kicked, stomped, and he's just trying to walk out the bar alive before he catches another beat down. It's a sad, sad looking pigeon. Um, if there's wording on the shoe, you want to compare the wording. Make sure that the fonts are correct. Make sure the words are in the same places on both shoes. Between the one you're comparing it to and the one you're potentially trying to buy. Um, basically what you're looking for is inconsistencies. So let's go a little bit further into a few more inconsistencies in these what the dunks. So if we look at the stars on the ray gun side of the what the dunk. You can see on the real pair, there's a ton of stars. On the fake pair, it looks like it's a clear sky almost. There's barely any stars there. You can also notice on both shoes that the Nike symbol is shaped completely different. The Nike symbol on the real shoe is actually has that slimmer look, but it's chunkier on the fake shoe. And I guess there's one last thing I want to, because I can do this all day long, because this fake is it's just horrible. It's the most horrible fake I've ever seen. So the last thing I'll compare God, there's so many bad things about this fake. Most fakes aren't this easy, just so you know. I know everybody's looking for an exact science, but to be honest with you, there's no exact science, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that next. But the last thing I'll tell you, the difference I see between these shoes that are glaring is the real shoe. The tie dye looks like it was done like real tie dye. But if you look at the fake shoe, the tie dye looks off. It doesn't look like somebody did real tie dye. It looked like a little kid had some crayons and they went to work on the shoe. But also it's more splotchy, almost like water paint. So these are just these fakes they're the worst fakes I've ever seen. Either way, what we're going to get into next is we're going to compare a shoe or like a real shoe instead of just these pictures here. When you have a shoe in your hand, what are different ways you can compare? Okay, lastly, what we're going to talk about now is how you can compare if you actually have both shoes in your hand. So, kind of like I said before, it's no real true science to deciding which pair there's no real good science at it. And the reason I say that is because technically no shoe is made the same. Even if I had 3 pairs of this Jordan 1 Spider-Man Origin, they would not all be exactly the same. I've seen people compare Travis Scott's and say this one was fake but this one was real. But let me tell you something about all these shoes you see right here. All these shoes were here, well, except this one. Let's not talk about that one. But all these shoes were either purchased from Nike or Foot Locker. But yet, and they're all Jordan 1s, but yet none of them are actually completely identical. That's why I say comparing a shoe can be really difficult, especially with Jordan 1s. And there's others that are a little bit more difficult too. Let's go into some other things. And once again, these are all real. None of these are fake. But now I know I'm making it a little harder. But what I guess I'm saying is I'm trying to explain to you there's no real exact science. There's some things that completely stand out. But the best thing is to really just to know your shoe. The shoes you like, you need to know a lot about them. You need to have studied them. to know how the leather rolls, to know where the stitching, how the stitching typically is in its worst and best state, because not all shoes are always created great. Some shoes that are legit. I've gotten sneakers. Matter of fact, for example, my Cactus Jacks, and everybody said this. I'm not gonna be the first, and I won't be the last. The Cactus Jacks, a lot of people complained that they had a lot of glue stains. I heard people were like, oh, you know, they were complaining that they may have fakes or whatever, but they weren't fake. They were just a bad made pair. And most people I know who got them from the retail, directly from the retailer, they just weren't a good shoe for that specific model. Anyway, let me not hold you guys any longer. Let's jump into this. So let me show you some differences in all these real shoes. And I know that kind of throws a wrench into me explaining to you how to tell between fakes. But once again, I just want to be fair and give you every inch pros and cons to comparing your real shoes to fakes. So if we look at this this Jordan 1 Origin, if you can see right here, right there at the bottom of that stitching right there. I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. Right there. That stitching actually doesn't go all the way into the sole like it should. Nothing wrong with it. Once again, I actually know for a fact this one, I remember, I got this from Foot Locker. I was more than ecstatic to get it. But let's look at this obsidian right here. If you look right there on the obsidian, it goes all the way to the bottom. That's stitching. Real Jordan 1. Real Jordan 1. This one actually came from Foot Locker too. So now, one thing I've seen people compare is how far this stitching corner right here on the side panel is from the actual Nike swoosh. That's actually not even a good method. I've seen so many people compare it. So if you look right there at that stitching right there between the Nike symbol and the corner of the stitching, there's about a stitch. It's about a stitch and a half between that corner and that Nike symbol. But if you look at this guy right here, right about there, let's see, there's actually 3 stitches there. So I've seen people compare those stitches and say, oh, look how far that is from the Nike symbol. That's the fake one. The ones, you know, some people say it should be up here. Some people say it should connect here. It has been different on different shoes. I've never seen it consistent. On some, I've seen them longer. On some shoes, I've seen them shorter. There's so many things people connect that they compare. I've heard people compare the soles, the insoles, which that's one thing I am not an expert at comparing, because once again, I've never actually owned fakes, but I do have the good ability of being able to tell a fake that I see on the internet. Those are typically the ones I can tell really well if they've taken pictures like they should. So at the end of the day, what message do I want you guys to take home? One, that if you're not going to buy shoes directly from the retailer, or from a retailer, a trusted retailer that buys them directly from the retailer, it can be a slippery slope. Or once again, or the retailer that vets sneakers to verify that they're not fake. It's a very slippery slope. So guys, you just want to be careful. You want to know you want to know a lot about the shoe you're buying. You want to, once again, you want to get a trusted site or friend that has the shoe and use that as a comparison. And you want to check every inch from front to back of that shoe. So once again, I hope the information I've given you today helps. If you decide to buy a shoe outside of the trusted zones that we should typically use, but I want you to feel freer in going out and vetting other people's shoes when you're trying to make what you would think is a good purchase outside of our regular purchase zone. So anyway, guys, I do just want to thank you for tuning in today. I hope something that I've shared today has helped you. I may have confused you a little bit at the end, but I want you to understand that once again, and lastly, before I cut out, that no shoe is created equal. And last example, let's just put it like this. When this shoe is made in China, it's made in a factory. In that factory are several people sitting at sewing machines. Yes, some stuff is a part of assembly line, but I've actually seen them. They have I think it's called a post-processing sewing machine, where you turn a sneaker and they're doing it with their hand. Well, if there's 100 people in that factory making this shoe 100 times, First of all, not one person is not going to turn it exactly the right, same exact way every time. Why? Because they're human. So you have the human flaw, being a human making these shoes, and then you have different humans. You may have 100 to 200 to 300 or more different humans making the shoe. So anyway, no shoe is perfect, and so you want to think about those things also when you're comparing. Once again, I think by the end of this video, I have probably completely confused you guys, and you're probably scared to death to buy a shoe that is not directly from the retailer. I apologize. That is not my goal, but you should be able to use these methods though for shoes that are blatant fakes. If you truly can't tell and you are nervous, there are sometimes, if you're in a bigger city, there are boutiques that will actually verify for you. Probably sometimes they have a small charge to verify that your shoe is not fake. There are also different, if you look for different sneaker groups online, like on Facebook, a lot of times if you post a picture and you say, please give me a legit check, you can learn. A lot of times you'll have a lot of people that come in and chime in and say if they think your sneaker is fake or not. That can be a little scary because I've posted shoes in the past and they'd be like, one guy say fake, one guy say real, one guy say fake. So those tend to be a little scary. Anyway, once again, I'm rambling at this point. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope something I've said has helped you to look into your sneakers a little bit deeper, to study them, to learn them, to know the soul of your sneaker. And don't be afraid to crease them, because this is Mr. Gray with creaseʻnämiks. See that little crease I'm trying to put there? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. And once again, if you can just like this video, I'd appreciate it. If you can follow me, subscribe to me, I would love it even more. Once again, thanks for tuning in. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.